All, welcome to today evening Eyeris webinar. Uh, Welcome to today's Eyeris Mediworks webinar. We have two guests today. One is Mr. Anand Murthy, who is an advocate, and he runs his own law firm called A.M.M. Law Office, based in Hyderabad, along with Advocate Jyothi Das. She handles primarily all the POSH cases. So POSH, when you hear POSH, it sounds posh. It is not posh. So it's more of prevention of sexual harassment. Now, understand in short about the importance. Healthcare sector, we have good participation of the fairer sex, and as the time goes, the importance of these aspects are increasing. So, hence this thought of getting this kind of a session for everybody's understanding of what this entire act is all about, what entire sexual harassment comes to. So, with this, I would like to invite Jyothi and Anand to take over the session from here onwards. See, they are the subject matter experts. We are those half-cocked experts. Any questions, please feel free to shoot. And I think we have a lot of known names already. So over to you, Anand and Jyothi.
Thank you, Hari. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think Hari has caught us on the wrong day of the week, and on the weekend he's caught us at the right time also. I think everybody likes you a lot, Hari, that they've actually joined into the webinar on a Saturday night. So thank you all for joining in, and it's really nice to have this session at this part of the evening. And I think today's topic, as said by Hari, it's posh, but yeah, it's more about how we're going to handle sexual harassment at our workplaces, and specifically dwelling on the topic of how it's working in the hospitals, because we are concentrating currently on the doctors and how it really transpires at the hospitals. So, giving a brief about us, I am Anand Mohan Murthy. I'm the managing partner of A.M.M. Law Offices. We are a boutique corporate and litigation law firm based out of Hyderabad. We're just a one-year-old firm, but it's an offshoot of my father's firm, which is a 45-year-old law firm. And so we predominantly do a lot of corporate and litigation work, and we specialize in certain areas of corporate work. And that's where we have Jyothi as one of my partners. She handles the POSH, and she's a POSH specialist. She's done her master's from Queensberry, London, as well as she's on many POSH committees as an external member, and she's a renowned in the field of women in law, and she's part of many initiatives in Hyderabad for women in law, and she is currently looking at the POSH from AMM perspective. So I'll open the floor to Jyothi, so Jyothi can take you through the act, and I would request all of you to please stay on mute so that it makes life easier for us and everybody can hear us. And would request all of you to also, once we finish our session, you can go ahead with the questionnaires. So Jyothi, all over to you.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Hari. And thank you, everyone, for logging in on a Saturday evening. So I've been practicing corporate law, women in law, and POSH for the last POSH Act. We celebrated 10 years to the POSH Act, and I've pretty much been practicing POSH for the last 7 odd years. So I did my certification. I was one of the earliest batches from the Labor Laws Department of India. Didn't realize how much weight it held then, but now, yes, I understand. So I'm not going to waste too much time, and I'll jump into the topic and get started. So the screen is on, Anand.
Yeah. Yes. So as I just said, this is the firm. I think you can move on to the next slide, Joe. This is about us, and I think it's the floor is all yours.
Thanks. So I'm just going to touch very basic elements of the Act today, just to get us to be aware about what the Act talks about and what are the things that we need to keep in mind. I'm just going to touch about these topics today, but any questions coming forward, I'm happy to take them after the session. You can leave, just so that you have the question on mind, you can leave it in the chat box as well. Now, let's just get started with the topic, and I'm going to give you a little background about the act, not wasting too much time over it. So back in 1979, UN came up with this treaty called CEDAW, which is Convention of Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. Why I am mentioning this is it's important to understand that India only ratified it in 1993. That too, because there was an event that happened, which was the Vishaka guidelines, which is why we have POSH today. So Banwari Devi was NGO worker. She was trying to stop a child marriage from happening, and in the interim, she was brutally raped, and none of the things henceforward went her way. Whether it was police complaint, whether it was medical checkup, etc., etc., everything was a challenge for her. And because of that,
NGO work was trying.
yeah, anybody said something? Anyway, I'll take that after the session. So the NGO worker got raped, etc. But what happened after that was we ratified to CEDAW, and also what CEDAW said is we have to keep three things in mind. It's a short act, but there are these three main elements. And also Vishaka guidelines said the same thing, that is safeguarding of women at workplace, accountability of their safety, and a legislation saying that women need to be safeguarded at workplace. So keeping these three main pillars in mind, the POSH Act also came forward. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of how the POSH Act came into force after Vishaka guidelines, but these are the three main points that we need to understand under the POSH Act. Now, going forward, as we know, the law, we can take four main elements of law, like the four main laws that we use as Bible, that is the Constitution of India, IPC, CRPC, and the Indian Evidence Act. And especially for us, for you doctors, it would be the Indian Medical Council, the Professional Conduct Ethics Regulations 2002. So I think in addition to these, my pillars and my Bibles, for this platform, the IMC regulations are also extremely important to keep in mind. And also the POSH Act is in sync with IMC regulations. So just to touch a little bit about this act in a nutshell to start with is, number one, if you read the topic, Sexual Harassment at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. The name spells out a lot and we get a lot of idea. So why I am specifying and stating the act is because we understand what we are looking at. The definition itself comes from there. So section 2 of the act talks about the definition. It is what kind of harassment? It is sexual harassment, particularly against who? Against women. Where? At workplace. Now, the act itself says out a lot of things over here. Now, what amounts to sexual harassment? It is any kind of unwelcoming, sexually colored behavior. Now, it is imperative to understand that there must be two elements, unwelcoming, and secondly, a sexual tone to a act. So it could be physical, it could be verbal, non-verbal, visual. It could amount to any kind of behavior which may have an undertone of it, showing pornography unwillingly, mind you, that those words are keywords here. What are the other forms? It could be quid pro quo. Now, what do we mean by quid pro quo? It means if you do this, I will do this. If you come on a date with me, I'll give you tomorrow's project. Those are the kind of things that we mean when we say quid pro quo. And or if you don't do this for me, I will do something bad to your career. Those are the kind of events that we have to understand also result to a harassment, or creating a hostile environment at work wherein it becomes so difficult for the woman or the the person there, that it becomes very difficult for her to work and to continue giving her best. Now, that why I am giving these 2-3 case laws at this junction is we have to understand that even to a point, the Global Hospital is a very good example. That happened was Global Hospital had a case at the District Court of Indore, wherein they said that you've not had an IC in place, and that is why they were given a penalty of 50,000. Now, first is warning, second is a penalty, and third is they cancel the license. So it is imperative for every organization at every junction, any organized sector or unorganized sector with 10 or more employees, full-time employees, must have an IC in place. And recently, also in Feb 2024, when the ICU private hospital thing happened in Jaipur, the IMC and the Supreme Court passed directives saying that every hospital, everyone in the healthcare system is must be safe, and they must, it starts from the least, the housekeeping staff to nurse, the occupational therapist, physicians, anybody who walks into the hospital needs to be protected. Also, during the COVID, we saw a lot of cases of POSH that happened. Now, in this one of the cases, Miss G, please mind you, the case law says Miss G versus ISG Novasoft Technologies. This was one of the earlier cases that we saw, and it is by far a landmark case wherein there was damages worth of 1.68 crores granted to the victim because the IC did not do their job properly. And the court saw that the IC had a lot of flaws. First of all, there was no IC. Second of all, when the IC came in place, the procedure wasn't followed that the POSH Act lays down, which we will be seeing later on. And also what the case law spelled out was that it is a fundamental right of every employee to be safe at workspace, and having a POSH Act and having an IC in place which abides to the POSH Act has a threefold role. That is, it first of all acts as a redressal mechanism, wherein where there is a case, the IC can come into picture and take care of it. Secondly, the external member is completely neutral. So there is no scope for anybody to think that somebody is biased or somebody is not doing their work correctly or taking side, etc. And thirdly, it prevents from series of litigation. A case that goes in even after a POSH complaint is addressed with an IC, it will not take less than 2-3 years to get out of the court. Hence, the court understood the importance of the IC. And in this case, Ms. G had 12 accusations, out of which the POSH Act, the complaint was the 12th accusation, and just for the POSH complaint, she was granted 1.68 crores. So you can understand what the judges and the courts are giving impetus to the POSH Act and the safety of women at workplace. Now, so I just want to touch upon the small definitions. I'm not going to take too much time here. I just need everybody to understand the basic definitions of who is who can make a complaint. First of all, who can make a complaint? Like I said, any organization with 10 or more employees. Okay, the employees, women and men, number one, but only women can make a complaint. So any woman, aggrieved woman who has been subjected to any sexual harassment can make a complaint. Or if she gives a written authority letter to her colleague, her friend, or her kith and kin in situations where she cannot make a complaint, say if she's gruesomely hurt in states, in situations where she's probably raped, or I'm talking about very serious offenses, or she's mentally not stable enough to come, she's going through a mental trauma, she can have a kith and kin, but with a written approval saying that I allow so and so to appear for on my behalf. Secondly, what is a workplace? Now, why I'm discussing these things is because I need you to know it is not just your office and just your building. It will also include the parking. It will also include two employees commuting together, say carpooling or, the journey, etc. Or if there is offsite, if they have gone to third party, an office where the woman is being subjected in a third office. So there, it is always better that our office takes up the case rather than letting their office take up the case. If there is an office get together, most common things that we hear. So any place where people are together from the same office, it also, I was going through some of the policies, especially of the Apollo Hospital policy, the sexual harassment policy. So there also they have very much specified that any two people or at least one person from the organization needs to be in that for the IC to take the complaint. Otherwise, it can go to the HR. It can go, if it is not a sexual tone complaint, it can also go to the HR then. Then thirdly, who is a respondent? Respondent is anybody who has subjected the woman of the offense. Now, especially in the medical field, we have seen many cases wherein the respondent is not necessarily a man. So there was a recent judgment, especially in this medical legal section, wherein they determined that it's not necessary that a man subjects the aggrieved woman to harassment. It can also be a woman, or it can be a trans, or it can be the other segments. And it would be ideal situation wherein a complainant or the aggrieved woman makes the complaint immediately after she's subjected or within 3 months of the last date of an incident. However, in the recent times, we have seen that people can have made complaints even after a couple of years or beyond 3 months. So we need a written letter saying that why they have made a complaint after so long or after 3 months. So there was a judgment that they said that after an additional 3 months would be granted in order to make a complaint. I'll just run you through a few scenarios where you can participate as well and tell me your answers.
Riya enters her office building and Raj meets her near the lift. He immediately comments, "You are looking hot in this dress." Riya then says, "Raj, I do not like such comments. These make me uncomfortable." After that, Raj does not repeat this behavior. Is this sexual harassment? Say yes or no.
What do you think? You can raise your hands or answer.
Hari, I think first thing you should go.
No, Hari was. So the answer is no, because the man never repeated that those comments.
Megha receives a WhatsApp message from her colleague Ravindra. She checks the message and it is a video clip from a pornographic movie. Megha is offended and files a complaint to the POSH cell. Is Megha within her rights? Answer yes or no.
Yes or no.
This would be a yes. This would be an outright yes.
I think this is an outright yes.
Rima has joined a new office. Her manager asks her to join on a video call at 10 p.m. that night. Rima agrees, thinking this is how they work here. During the call, Rima discovers that she's the only one talking to her manager, and her manager asks her a few general questions like what movies she likes watching. He says that he will have a video call with her every night as this is the only time that he is free. Rima tries telling him that she cannot be on a call every night. Can't things be discussed next morning? But he says that if she doesn't join the call, he will report this as insubordination. Rima feels uncomfortable and she's contemplating resigning. Should she file a sexual harassment complaint? Answer yes or no.
Yes, I think Alpa ma'am says yes.
Yes. So, though there was no tone in the last video, he just says, come online. So there are a lot of arguments that, oh, but he didn't say anything wrong, but it could culminate to something. It's a questionable, unprofessional conversation as well.
So in this case, like if she refuses that we can discuss it in office hours and
Right,
stops then and there,
right,
then it doesn't because I think she's already said no.
right.
But he's threatened her of insubordination. So basically, he's creating a hostile environment for her. It's a quid pro quo.
It's a quick
So that is he's demanding favors in exchange for either taking care of her or not in the organization.
Right, right. So, so in these situations when one has to make a complaint, the first thing they'd make a complaint is to the IC. Now, what is an IC? IC is an internal committee, and that is the most important element of the POSH Act. That is what we drive away from under the POSH Act. So every organization must have an internal committee, and every unit of every organization must have a IC committee. Now, who forms the IC committee? IC committee is formulated by the presiding officer, two members of the employees, two members from the employees, an external member, and this committee must be minimum 50% women. Now, external member can be either a lawyer or from the NGO. The presiding officer must be a senior woman employee of the organization. Now, many times people ask me that, Jyothi, we don't have so many women employees of the organization. So in those scenarios, we get a task force wherein maybe the presiding officer and the external member is the same one for all the units, and we'll have two other members from the organization in each unit representing the IC. Now, the IC has many roles to play, but we need to understand that every time an IC member steps down for whatever reason, it needs to be immediately, with immediate effect, they need to replace them. So there are many roles, like I said. So there are internal and statutory roles. Now, internal roles, when I say, that means the IC must let the organization and all the employees know that the IC is in force. So that is one of the first works that IC must do. Send an intranet mail to everybody or put it up on the the notice board, etc. Statutory, when I say statutory, it means like filing in the returns, whatever it needs to. I will be telling that in detail later. Now, moving forward, the internal committee is not like कि हमको हर time काम करना है. It is like the internal committee must analyze the complaint. If there is scope for clearing the air, mediating between both the parties, settling it out, it is the role of the IC to see to it that they try to conciliate the issue when the complaint is raised as then and there, or at that moment see that they clear the air, tell that there was some misunderstanding, etc., whatever it might be, but it has to be done in writing, recorded that yes, the complaint was raised, but the parties have chosen to conciliate the issues without any monetary benefit to either of the parties. So that is the first attempt that the IC must try to do. However, If the parties choose not to, then the IC will take it forward according to the procedure of the that is laid in the POSH Act. Secondly, another thing is the POSH committee, the IC committee and the parties all are duty bound to maintain confidentiality. There was a time in one of the inquiries that I have actually implemented a penalty over the complainant herself because she was spreading rumors. So according to the rules, I can put damages of 5,000 rupees. And that's what I did. I said, in spite of telling her again and again, she was spreading rumors. There were SMSs, WhatsApp messages, etc. circulated. And then we had to, make it a point to set an example. So to maintain a confidentiality is mandate. What are the things that one must keep in mind when they are maintaining confidentiality? Identity of the parties. That also includes witnesses and evidence, people who are giving evidences. And what stage and what are the details of the parties, which means addresses, phone numbers, names, etc. of the parties. Now, I'm not going to get too much into detail because we don't have that much time, but I'm just going to run you through the procedure because as owners of hospital, as leaders in our hospitals, you need to understand that when a complaint comes, one, it is mandatory to have a written complaint. So if somebody comes and tells you that this is what happened to me, but I will not make a written complaint, it is okay if you put her statement down and take her signature, but it has to be written and signed. So when a formal complaint comes, that is when we can start working on it. So the formal complaint comes, the act and the rule says 6 copies, but 1 copy is also difficult to get, practically speaking. Once we get a formal complaint, then we communicate the same, send a notice to the respondent within 10 working days, and get his response within 1 week. The timelines are very important under this act, so it actually is quite helpful. Once we do this communication, complaint, notice, reply, that is when we can figure out whether we can do a conciliation or not. If at that junction we feel so, we can take the conciliation path, or then take the discretion of the IC and take it forward, and we start the investigation. During the investigation, it is mandatory to see that all our papers, all our documents are drafted well. That is a complete different course that I do on drafting of the investigation and the inquiry. It is mandatory for us to keep everything in writing. Every statement that the complainant, respondent, and the witnesses give out, we must have everything written in real time and signed by them, the depositions. It is a lot of work for the committee at all times when a complaint has come. During this time, if there are any evidences, if there are any say documents that the IC feels that they require, they can bring them, they can ask for it, say chat histories, emails, if there is availability of CCTVs of the organization, then we can even ask for those. But everything must be on record. At this point, if the IC feels that interim orders need to be passed, we can take it forward. Now, why interim orders? It is a very important aspect of the POSH Act, because the POSH Act is giving the power of a magistrate court to the IC. Now, it is having a very broad scope of power because it is a civil court level. As in, today you're giving me the responsibility of being a civil court wherein I can summon anyone. That is, I can call for anybody from anywhere to give me evidence and put their statement on oath. Secondly, I can give orders for the protection of women at once. Say they need to change teams, say they need to change the leader, the reporting officer, or move the manager to another unit, or or also to give the aggrieved woman up to 3 months of paid leave. That also is a power of the IC. And also thirdly, now third point in this is very crucial because it says anything that may be required. Now imagine an act in the legislation, we are getting that kind of power as an IC. Whatever further may be needed in that situation. So the interim orders can be any of what I have put forward. Now, going forward, if it is proved, the complaint is proved, we give orders accordingly. If they are not proved and if it is a false complaint, we give orders accordingly, and a report is made in 10 days after the orders are passed, and we have 60 days to implement those orders. So this is the life of an inquiry that I have put in a nutshell and told you. But as we are going through it, it is a lot of work because everything needs to be signed then and there when we're taking a statement from any of the parties, and we're passing interim orders at every stage. And this whole thing needs to be completed in 3 months. So sometimes it can be done. Sometimes it's a challenge, of course. Now, like I said, drafting is a whole different ballgame, and we need to always maintain our drafts in a manner which, if the case is being contested tomorrow and it goes to court, these are the drafts that is going to save the hospital from being questioned whether you followed the procedure given under the law or not. So the drafts are extremely important because you have to be prepared that a case can go in appeal to the High Court at any given point. Besides the draftings of the orders, the IT returns that we file also has a segment with the POSH details, whether we have had complaints, what is the result of it, if there are no complaints, what is, how many of it.
This is interrupting. You're saying the IT returns have a section for POSH.
Yes.
Yes.
That is news.
Yes. So
Yes.
there are two statutory, if you remember, if you recollect earlier, I said there are statutory norms that we need to, compliances that we need to follow, and this is that. So under the statutory compliances, IT returns that are filed, there is a segment in the IT returns that needs to be filled. How many cases have happened, what is the result of it, how many awareness sessions have happened, have all the employees attended that. So when I draft those, I have a structure that is approved by, given in the law for the returns, for that. And also in the calendar year before December 31st, we need to file it with the Labor Department saying that we are in compliance with the POSH Act as well. So these are the two main mandatory statutory compliances that we have to do it, yes, filing. Now, so we've completed the main hardcore procedural part of the law now. Now I'll be discussing a few case laws. If you remember, we saw the Fogart case that had happened, and it was all over the news. So this is the news, this is the clipping, and they had actually put up the complaint on Twitter and tweeted it. Now, I had many issues with this. One, it didn't come from the complainant. Complainant didn't give the authority to the Fogart sisters to make a complaint on Twitter. It came into the public forum, which is again a felony. Secondly, the validity, when it happened, what the complaint doesn't say anything. So there are a lot of, at various levels, this kind of a thing is not correct. So, it's just something that we're hearing in the news, and it at various levels, I thought that it was rather sad that, okay, something must have happened. Yes, but they're also manipulating the law in many ways. Now, I have tried to cover a lot of this in my earlier slides, but also what we need to understand is what are the punishments. I have covered the interim release, and I have also covered the powers of the IC as a civil code. So I'm just moving to what are the punishments and penalties. Now, service rules is something that comes from the government sector. We have to understand that the POSH is not the same for the government servants as well. So the civil servants are governed by the CCS CPA rules, and we are fortunate that the private sector doesn't go through that, because CCA CCS rules are extremely complicated, and unfortunately, it is not as friendly as the POSH Act is. So, but the service rules come, that's the concept of it comes from there. Otherwise, for us, the disciplinary action comes from the labor laws department, which has a variety of things. It is also company to company and policy to policy. Maybe you as a company might be extremely zero tolerance, like Tata's is completely zero tolerance. If it is a complaint as well, proved or unproved, that person is on probation and is ready to walk out. That is just an example. However, if we see if it is a proven thing, we can look at warnings, reprimands, withholding of any kind of promotions, cancellation of pay rises, recommending of counseling, and carrying out community service. Now, this community service now, after the change of law, that is from 1st of July, the community service is playing a very vital role under CRPC as well. Hence, it is going to see a lot of momentum under POSH as well. Now, in case of false complaints as well, it is the same thing. So if there are false or malicious complaints, the penalties and punishments are the same as mentioned for the approved complaints. Now, recently, it's all over the news, the Rishikesh AIIMS case, wherein the police barged onto the 4th floor wanting to arrest a person who admitted himself in the psychiatric ward, saying because he said I was already mentally ill, to subject the junior doctor of harassment. Now, these kind of things we are seeing a lot now. Also in the KGH hospital, that is the King George Hospital of Visakhapatnam, we saw a nursing head do harassment of another nursing staff. So we're seeing a lot in the hospitals, a lot of things are happening. And, it is not like any sector is not seeing it. Even a judge was subjected to having, was an accused in a case actually, and he had to step down. That to a Supreme Court judge. So last year, why hospitals came in the limelight was, this was to do with a nursing home college, wherein there was sexual harassment against the junior nurses. And this was the case, Aureliano Fernandez versus State of Goa, May 2000, actually, sorry, my bad, that was 2023. So this case is very important, because this is where the judge actually spelled out that all the hospitals and every medical center must have an IC in place. So we saw that, and that was a landmark case for us as well. Then there was the Calcutta High Court that reiterated that there is no specification of the gender. So like I mentioned earlier, the respondent can be a man or a woman. It came from this case law. So if we only get our backing from case laws. That is why I put down some of the case laws that we have seen in our landmark judgments. Also, besides having an IC, in case one, especially in the unorganized sector, a she-box is where one can make a complaint. And say if it is your house help, or you don't know where to put a complaint, that is where one can make a complaint, just FYI. Then there's Nanavati Max Super Speciality Hospital in Bombay, wherein there were complaints. And actually, this was a very classic case because the resident doctor made allegations of sexual harassment, and the HR threatened her, if she reported. Now, that is the kind of complaint that makes somebody, that discourages somebody from making a complaint, and it also then goes to mental trauma, etc. And many times there was a study that was made particularly to hospitals. About 200 people of hospital were given questionnaires, and they saw that 196 women employees were subjected to sexual harassment of some form or the other, and out of which there were only 10 complaints. So you can see the ratio. There were 196 harassments and 10 complaints. So that was quite an eye opener for me as well. And during COVID times, we saw a lot of sexual harassment that happened from ambulance attendants, from junior resident making complaints, etc. So it was quite a subject for me also to research about, and it's quite a subject. And of course, the Delhi government hospital case. So I mean, I'm sure you all also must have heard of many cases, and if you want to discuss, there are many cases. The Me Too movement is most popular. Bollywood is full of them. You would have seen the Alok Nath memes that were viral at one point. Ali Zafar case, where it proved that he was not wrong. The Nisha Shafi was guilty of a false complaint, and she was given 3 years of jail time. Of course, she got a bail. So I mean, we've been hearing a lot. So please keep your eyes open. Sometimes there is sexual harassment going on around you, but the complaint is not made. In those scenarios, the IC can take the discretion to approach the complainant. If the complainant says that they don't want to address it, or they want privacy, etc., for whatever reasons, they can still call the respondent. There are many times that later on it may escalate, and they might want to go to the police. First we need to address it internally through the internal committee, and that plays a very big role. So, that's all I have. I don't want to get too much into the details.
No,
but
any
questions, I'm very happy to address.
From a doctor point of view, what I understand is that we should have our checks and balances in place and our process in place, so that if that case goes to court tomorrow, it doesn't come back and bite us.
Absolutely.
That's a thing. Next is that there should be a formal complaint for any action.
That's right.
So
for
there is
any valid action to be taken.
Okay. So there's a suo motu that committee can take an action or something like that.
Oh, there can be. There have been cases wherein they've seen harassment happening, and that's when the IC committee have taken it up, and this is the discretionary power of the IC that they can work under.
Okay. And okay. So
I think we'll open the floor for questions, Hari.
Yeah.
Nirmal sir, I can see you there. Are you there, sir? Nirmal sir. Just a minute.
I think if anybody wants to put in their
Yeah,
questions,
yeah.
in the
Hi,
chat
Hari.
also, then-
Sorry.
Anand, let me introduce Dr. Nirmal Frederick. He's from Tamil Nadu, and he's a very active ophthalmologist. He represents various associations. He's part of NABH certification and that quality QCI inspections and all. He's a person into policy making and everything. So nice seeing you here attending the session, sir. Anything?
Thanks, Hari. I was actually multitasking, so attending this as well as few administrative works.
Sir.
Sorry, I can't unmute my video. But nice session. It's a very relevant problem now, particularly in healthcare setups. When the women folk increases, a lot of challenges. in the administration as well as conflict within the hospital. As you rightly said, NABH has a standard to take care of this. So internal committees are mandatory, and all accredited hospitals have to set in certain policies and also have this working committee. And I think she mentioned about the constitution of the committee, and I think definitely it will be useful because most of the HRs may not know this. And obviously, clinicians as administrators may not know this. So this video, I think, will be a useful resource for them to see how they can frame their own policy as well as form the internal committee under this act. And that IT part was real news, how it is linked to the thing. I think there are a lot of sections coming up now which are interlinked. And many of our clinicians may not be aware of that. That's good information. Thank you.
I'm sorry I had to rush through because of the time. But like you said, there are a lot of avenues and a lot of nuances that are happening. And we need to be prepared and upgraded ourselves, especially from the cybercrimes department, because what happens is a lot of things happen on WhatsApp and which is not on the official mails.
Yes.
So that also kind of comes in between cybercrimes and POSH and a lot other things, internal policies of the organization, etc.
Yeah. Now, social media has compounded all these challenges because many of even though it happens away from the workplace,
Right.
it is reflected in the workplace context.
We have a question from Dr. Shruti. She's like, what if one female employee complains against another female employee for making unsavory personal remarks with sexual undertones, like making jokes linking her and another male employee?
That's
Yes, it
happens very frequently.
So this comes under the purview of POSH.
Oh, yes.
A hostile environment, definitely.
So this particular female employee can go and complain to the internal committee, and the respondent for this would be the other female employee who has made this
Yes.
particular comment.
Yeah. So that case law was exactly this, when they said the respondent can be a woman.
Okay.
I think the definition of respondent is widened with the new concept coming in place.
Correct.
Okay, so basically it's not the person whom you're linked with, but it's the person who have aggrieved you.
Yes, absolutely.
So whether those facts has got truth or not, it doesn't matter, but the person has made a lewd unsavory comment, so it counts.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So
because the dignity of woman is put to stake over there. That rumor is not going to be between two people. It will be between the whole floor and soon the whole hospital. That the linking and all that. So it goes against the dignity of a woman. Like if you then make it bigger.
So, ma'am, one more question. Like, if a person who after working in that hostile environment resigns in the spite, कि भाई नहीं मैं छोड़ के जा रही हूँ, and that particular person leaves, and from the external, can they complain to the IC?
See, they can. Initially, they would put that person on hold. They would not let them resign. Or if they've already resigned, then also they will take that person's statement into consideration, and we are duty bound to do it. Because if tomorrow somebody else comes up with that kind of a complaint, we have it on record.
So I think I have another view there. So like you said, if the complaint is in motion and she has quit during the investigation, it is duty bound for the IC to complete or finish the entire process of redressal and come to a conclusion whether there was a real case of sexual harassment or not. But if she has left prior to initiating a complaint to the IC committee, I think there could be two views on it. One is she could come back as well as take external help that is directly going to the labor court and making a complaint, or also take criminal action against the company.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. So the labor law is part of it. First of all, when they make a complaint, first they will say whether you went to the IC or not. Even the police. So I've been working with the SCSC, that is the Cyberabad Society for Cyberabad Police Commissionerate. There are recurring circulars that comes saying that first the complaint needs to be addressed by the IC, internal committee of the organization, and then can it be entertained by the police. So first step is always the IC.
Okay.
I've had clients who have come to me saying directly they've gone to the police and not gone to the IC.
So you always ask them to go back to the IC and then come.
Even police will ask, if you have the IC, why did you not go to the IC? In that scenario, only if, say, the presiding, if, say, one of the committee member is the respondent in that case, they can go to the police directly.
So what if the complainant does not have the trust in the IC?
That is when they go to the police.
That's when they go to the external.
Sometimes the IC is reconstituted in that condition, because it's always the benefit of the organization to have the complaint addressed by the internal committee, then it goes to the police or the court.
Okay, because police court mein chala gaya, it's an external matter beyond their control.
So it's also, so where we are coming from is it's imperative for any organization, in our scenario here, the hospitals, to have an internal committee first, because it precludes litigation or the matter going outside their control, that is to external sources, and their reputation at stake.
Okay. So because what happens is, a lot of people, because of this kind of situation, normally choose to resign, rather than complain. So there's been a lot of people who left few workplaces because of this reason. They're looking for new jobs. So these kind of situations are definitely there. But here what happens is, they would prefer to look for they would like to have a change of environment rather than go through the entire complaint process.
Very true, Hari. But I think the whole idea of the POSH Act is to create a safe environment. So what we do is, that's why it's, if you go by the name of the act, it is prevention, prohibition, and redressal. So we prevent. So we prevent it is by basically enlightening the employees or the employer about what is sexual harassment in the first scenario. Secondly, what recourses you have in case there's a sexual harassment. And then, like Jyothi said, there are interim measures where if you are not comfortable with the situation, you're allowed to take leave up to 3 months. You are moved out of the department and you're working with a different department. Your heads are moved out. So there are multiple things. The act itself provides recourses. So basically, it's the orientation and basically enlightening the entire setup, or the office setup, to understand what transpires in the sexual harassment complaint and what recourses I have as an aggrieved party.
Okay. It's a wide topic. So I think anything else you would like to touch upon broadly? So
I have one question. It is not regarding POSH, but like recently, All India Ophthalmological Society has made a women redressal committee. So I don't understand how this society is going to help women locally.
I'm sure we can come up with some kind of programs for the women. I'm sure you are the best person for that. As far as law and POSH is concerned, I'm always ready to be on committees and we can take forward. But it could be women-led programs for the safety. That could be one of the things.
So the thing is, All India Ophthalmic Society is an association. It's a society of all the ophthalmologists across the country. So they have a small subcommittee which looks into these kind of. So their primary role, according to you, would be education, awareness, and hand holding.
Yes.
But they don't have any legal standing in terms of handling complaints.
Absolutely.
So they might be able to help people up,
Also, what they as a authority can do is have IC in place. If there are people, say, hypothetically speaking, if you can't find an external member, then the committee can help you identify the external member. And not just in POSH, but a lot of other areas as well.
Like I saw the committee member, there is already clinical psychologist and advocate in the committee.
Okay.
That's the
So
association.
normally these committees act as external members to the internal committees, madam.
Okay.
So they provide the legal expertise or the domain expertise to the IC committees in situations like this.
So basically, what you're saying is that if there's a hospital located in Hyderabad, they have an internal committee. It requires an external member. So
Yes.
that external member can be part of that source from that particular
Yes.
association.
Association.
Or the association can have a couple of people onboarded and they can be empaneled. And do programs, say awareness programs like what today we've had, in case of getting more into the depth, do inquiry, because that's a very important topic. So just do awareness programs, I think.
Okay.
Normally, Hari, our sessions are almost 3 to 4 hours. So me and Jyothi do this for 3-4 hours. We do sessions like this for 4 hours. Stretch.
Online webinars
It's
are
a full-fledged training and orientation session. So what we do is we have a full-fledged program for the companies and organizations we provide the services for. So one is the orientation sessions, firstly to the employer and the employees as to what comprises sexual harassment. Then secondly, setting up their IC committee and putting their policy in place. Then third is educating the IC committee or making them equipped to handle sexual harassment complaints. And the fourth important is becoming an external member to the IC committee. And then as and when the complaints come up, we handle those complaints along with the IC committee. And last but not least, the statutory compliances, which we file the report with the IT department as well as the labor department. So it's a full-fledged yearly exercise we do for all our clients. So it's an orientation, it's training, it's compliances all put together.
So basically what happens is we doctors normally start a hospital, we run it, slowly we grow, we increase the numbers of staff and employees and all without realizing what all to be done and what all not to be done. So all these kind of compliances, a lot of times we are not aware.
You are not new. You're not the only one. It means we've done it for n number of organizations. You're not the you're not the only one. You're not the lone wolf. So don't worry.
There is this other
That is the reason standards are given, Hari.
Yes, sir.
So our members have to adopt the standards. We not really get the standards and accreditation on board and the certificate, but they can see the standards and learn and incorporate all these safeguards. So basically, these are safeguards, and that actually helps the organization in the long run.
So, these are checks and balances that work. So it's already 9 o'clock.
So what happens is when hospitals have one or more, offices or one or two hospitals, they're always shifting the staff, nurses, etc. And there I believe, so I had one complaint that I was addressing, wherein the housekeeping staff and the nurses were being subjected to harassment, and they asked to move to the other hospital. And this was happening very often, and that's when the senior doctor observed it and reached out to me saying that we need an awareness session, if not anything. We'll see the committee is established later on, but let's do an awareness session first. So that's a starting point. There's always a start.
So I think one area we missed out is that it's not only your employees, but even your housekeeping staff, your contract labor, anybody who is working for your clinic or your hospital. It can be your labor. So even they fall under the definition of employee or an aggrieved person as and when a sexual harassment complaint is made.
Okay. So I think, Jyothi, thank you for the excellent talk. And this session will be available on YouTube for anybody to follow it up later. And maybe rewind it, hear it again, rewind it, hear it again. So that's it. Anything, let's call it a day. And thank you everyone for attending the session and asking questions and interacting. And thank you Anand and Jyothi for the wonderful presentation and talk. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you all for joining in. It was really nice talking to all of you. Looking forward. Thank you.
everyone.